Message from Starfleet Command, top priority.
You are listening to the TrekRanks Podcast, a member of the Tricorder Transmissions Podcast Network. This is episode 150, featuring TrekRanks Potpourri. Welcome, Star Trek fans. I am Jim Moorhouse. I'm the host of the TrekRanks Podcast, and tonight we are celebrating episode number 150 of the TrekRanks Podcast. We've been doing this show now for almost 6 years, and 150 is a pretty special number, so we have a really special show for you tonight, and we're going to get into what TrekRanks Potpourri is going to be in a minute. But first, we're going to introduce our three fantastic guests tonight. First up, the ranker of Trek on Twitter, our good friend Bill Mann with his 11th appearance on TrekRanks.
Thanks so much for having me. I can't believe it's been 11. Wow.
I know, you were on, I looked it up, your first episode was episode 5. So that was the 5-episode marathon. That was a long time ago.
Sure was. But so happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome.
The invitation.
And second up is our good friend from the Wisconsin Expanse and host of the First Flight Podcast, Abby Sommer, making her 6th appearance. Abby, welcome.
It is always an honor, but this one in particular. So thanks for the invite, Jim. And I'm so excited to talk to the three of you tonight.
I can't wait. And your first episode was 92. The Buzzer Beaters.
Yep. It was a fun one.
And rounding it out, it is Mr. Music Scoring of Star Trek from the DC sector. It's our friend Carl Wonders making his 4th TrekRanks appearance. Carl, glad to have you on for this one.
I'm thrilled to be here. It's nice to be back with Bill. He was actually with me on my first go-around, I think, back in, was it 13, I think?
Okay, that was 13.
So,
that was Gory Moments. Oh, that was with Bill.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay,
yep.
So you guys started, that would have been Bill's second, probably.
It was. Yeah.
All right. Okay, I love it. That's part of the TrekRanks history, 150 episodes. All right, let's get into our TrekRanks recalibration.
You can recalibrate the regulators now.
Will do.
Okay, the TrekRanks Charter has 2 clauses. 1, we rank Trek so we can have a fun conversation about Star Trek. And 2, the ranks don't matter. We just use them as the framework to have a deep dive conversation about all the things we love about Star Trek.
Infinite diversity.
In infinite combinations.
There are no wrong answers at TrekRanks. This show is about sharing the things we love about Star Trek, and we love it all. From TOS to TNG, straight to the Enterprise, and the Kelvin timeline, now Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, Short Treks, Lower Decks, and Prodigy as well. It's all fair game here on the TrekRanks Podcast.
Black alert. Black alert.
And a reminder that this episode of TrekRanks is current through the Star Trek Prodigy first season episode Mind Walk, which is the 871st episode of Star Trek across 56 years. And one final reminder, we use episodes as a shorthand term, but the 13 films are always in play as well.
Hailing frequencies open.
Thank you, Mr. Worf. You can hail me directly on Twitter at TrekRanks or at Enterprise Extra. And you can also see our extensive rankings of all the Treks at TrekRanks.com. And don't forget to call and leave us a message with your own picks at 609-512-LLAP. That's 609-512-5527. Okay, Bill, Abby, and Carl, let everyone know how to get a hold of you guys on Subspace. Bill.
So you can find me on Twitter at TrekFan4387, where I review episodes, rank things, talk about Star Trek. And you'll find me on YouTube, on the Trek Live YouTube channel, where my friend Dan and I talk about our rewatches. We're both kind of, right now, kind of synced up and talking about that, talking about new, whatever is kind of on our minds in the Star Trek universe at that time. So
love it. Abby, how about you? Still on Twitter?
I am still on Twitter. I'm probably going to be a bitter ender because I just don't have enough time to learn something else. And I have hope that we're going to prevail through all this chaos. Yes. But that's the best place to find me. I'm at Abby M. Sommer. That's SOMMER. And if you feel like chatting Enterprise specifically, my co-host Krista and I do the First Flight Pod right here on the Tricorder Transmissions Network. And we have just started into season 2 and we're dropping some fun stuff. So come and check it out.
Love the First Flight podcast. Carl, how about you, man?
Yeah, so I'm still hanging on Twitter as well. My handle is at listening to film. If you have migrated to the Extinct Mammal website, you can find me there as well at listening to film at 10forward.social. If you have tastes outside of Star Trek, my good friend and friend of the podcast here, Thad Haight, and I host a
Never heard of him.
James Bond adjacent James Bond adjacent podcast called License to Spiel. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Podspiel, Spiel. And just to tease a little bit of something, another friend of mine who you may know from the show, John Fuchsius, he and I are going to be kicking off a podcast early in the new year that is looking at the music of Star Trek. So
Awesome.
That is still in the works. I don't have a lot of specifics to give you, but that will be dropping hopefully in the month of January coming up. So stay tuned for that one.
I love it. We've been trying to get John back on, and I'm sure we will at some point. You guys were on a show together, right? I think I saw that.
Yeah, we did the Nog episode together.
Yeah, Nog, that's right. Okay, awesome. Okay, I think we're ready to run our diagnostic cycle to get into today's show.
Computer, run a level 2 diagnostic.
So what is TrekRanks Potpourri? Here's what we're doing. It's the most unique TrekRanks topic, but at the same time, completely familiar. So tonight we're doing an off-the-cuff topic for the first time with our random chroniton episode generator that we've set up with every previous episode of TrekRanks. And so for each pick in each round, each of our guests will get a spin on the Tonga wheel and we'll get a topic and then give us the answer on the fly with their instantaneous 5 words and a hashtag. So this is going to be amazing. This is going to be so much fun. So here are the quick rules. Everyone spins the Tonga wheel. We will not do any repeat topics. I'm going to try and make sure everybody gets a topic that they weren't on from their previous TrekRanks appearances. So I have a list of that. So there's going to be a lot for me to track tonight. So we'll see what comes up. Any questions, you guys? Are you ready for this?
Yeah,
I think we're ready.
I think we're ready.
Let's do it. Well, let's get a quick prime directive for this topic. We really don't need it for this topic, but just to quickly hear from everyone on how they prepared.
Do they know about prime directive? They know everything I know, sir.
And you're about to know everything we know about our prime directive. So, Bill, let's start with you quickly. Did you do anything to try and prep a prime directive for this completely spontaneous topic?
Did I? I sure did. And I think you're going to find some commonality in our prime directives. Okay. I don't want to speak for Abby and Carl directly, but I looked at all 149 previous episodes and did some homework. And
okay. So you prepped in case
yes, I prepped, but
you did not prep 149 picks.
Well,
wow, you're amazing. Okay, all right.
Well, Jim, can we admit that we've all been talking behind your back and we all prepped 149 with 5 words and hashtags because we want this to be a celebration of how much we love TrekRanks and awesome. You and this show, and we wanted it to be amazing, and that's the way to make it amazing. So, surprise.
All right. Well, listen, it would be amazing regardless, but that's fantastic. So I'm the only one that has to figure out their goddamn 5 words and a hashtag on the fly.
Well, can I just tell you that at the end of every episode, you ask us to come up with a pick real quick. So this is just a little bit of all of your panelists.
That's true.
Turnabout right here.
That's true. All right, Carl, you're in on this?
Yeah, I'm in on this as well. I should also clarify that none of us have actually shared any of our information with each other, so we're going to be reacting in real time here. But the only other real prep I did, I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna. I wish I had the time to go listen to all your episodes again, and I decided to stay away from that actually, so I didn't kind of bias myself. The only other real homework I did was I looked through some of my lists that I've posted on Twitter over the years for other shows, and maybe stole a little bit from there, and then tried to take advantage of the idea that a lot of these episodes dropped well before certain shows even came on the air. So it might be fun to see if we can find some that are no longer that wouldn't have even existed when the show came on. So something new to talk about there. So that was really the only other prep I did aside from the 149 picks.
One thing that I was really conscious of and really want to try to maintain for myself is the spontaneity of it. So when I was looking at the previous 149 topics, I tried really, really hard, and I think I succeeded to write down my pick, like legit the first thing that popped into my head. For each one. And then I went back and I built 5 words and hashtags kind of around that first image that popped into my head to try to replicate if I'm actually sitting here and you read a number and tell me what it is on the spot. So these are like first blush gut reaction choices. I wanted to go back and change a bunch of them, and I did not.
That makes sense. Well, surprise, we're doing picks off the long list now. So we're going to have all new topics. No. Okay. So for me, I spent most of my time just working on this random chroniton episode generator. So whatever picks, the one thing I said to myself going in is whatever my picks land on, if I can remember, I'm going to go with my gut. But if I know that I picked that from the previous episode, then I'm going to skip it and try and avoid those. But who knows if I'll be able to remember. So we'll try to keep it fresh, but I'm not going to be checking. So we'll see what happens. Okay, this is going to be amazing. Oh, look who we have. Let's do it. Third Ramadaclon. Introduce us to the order of things.
I am a Jem'Hadar. He is a Vorta. It is the order of things.
Thank you, Third Ramadaclon. Welcome back, buddy. It's good to have you back. Okay, you guys know the drill on the order of things, but for this episode, it's a little different. So for this episode, we're going to start with our spin of the Tongo wheel to reveal your TrekRanks Potpourri episode. Then we'll each make our pick for our topics and do what we can to come up with a 5-word summary and a hashtag on the spot. At least I will. And after getting through 5 rounds of picks, we're going to go into our secondary systems. We're going to do a warp speed round. So we'll just do, we're going to do a few more spins of the Tongo wheel. And then that's it. Oh, yeah, it could happen. Some duplicate picks. We'll see if we have some duplicates. If we do, we'll fire the Defiant torpedoes. Okay, Bill, we're going to kick it off with you. Spin the wheel for your first TrekRanks Potpourri choice. Oh, yeah, I got to do it. Sorry. I'm waiting for your pick. Here we go. Okay, Bill, your episode number 129, top 5 first times. And that episode dropped earlier this year, February 11th, 2022. Episode 129, top 5 first times. What do you got?
My 5 words and a hashtag is the Star Trek nativity scene, hashtag where the story begins. And it is first contact in the movie First Contact. I feel like that's the ultimate first time. It's the beginning of the Star Trek story, and it comes at the climax of one of the foremost Star Trek feature films, one of the most successful of them, I think pretty universally accepted as such.
Yep.
And it's got to be one of my favorite like Star Trek moments as a whole. I think it has all of the elements, the sort of awe-inspiring Jerry Goldsmith's score, kind of powering through the momentous quality of that breakthrough. And it's also, how old was I? I was 9 in the movie theater watching that. As a person who grew up in absolute love with The Next Generation, those characters were my heroes as young as I can remember myself, and seeing all of that on the big screen. I had seen Generations too, even younger, but First Contact being such a huge success and such a great movie. I just remembered 9-year-old me sitting there and just amazed that, oh my God, it's the Vulcans. Like I didn't know that going in, that it was going to be the Vulcans. And
nobody did. That's the amazing thing about it.
Yeah, right. And that felt huge because the Vulcans were so kind of sparingly used up to that point, through Next Generation and even early Deep Space Nine, like the Maquis aside. Did she end up being a Romulan? I'm testing my own memory. The character in the Maquis part 1 and 2. I'm trying to, yeah.
Oh yeah. No, you're talking about no. She was a Vulcan.
She was a Vulcan. She was like Vulcan merchant. It was in Black Arms. Yeah,
it was in Gambit and Gambit. Robin Curtis ended up being.
He ends up being a Romulan.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes.
So but the point being, Vulcans are obviously so heavily featured in the original series, but so sparingly featured in the early part of the Berman kind of era. So as you're sitting there in 1996, Tuvok aside, of course, there's not a whole lot of Vulcan stuff going on. It just blew me away when I was 9, and it's amazing. As I said in the Prime Directive, it's the first thing that popped into my head when I read the title of the episode.
I hope on your next spin you don't get top 5 first contact moments. You're going to be real stuck then.
I got some duplicates, counting on the fact that I wouldn't get duplicates, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, jumping back for a second to what you said about the score of this moment, this is one of probably my top 5 pieces of Star Trek music, and that says a lot because I listen to a lot of it. And it's so funny because just the other day I was coloring with my daughters, and I put on Star Trek music a lot when we do that because it's mostly quieter and doesn't have any words. And my little one turns to me and goes, "Put on that one music, the one after they beat the Borg Queen and they shake hands with the Vulcans." And I'm like,
"Oh, that's
yes.
That's incredible."
And so hear that theme, and that has got to be one of the most moving themes and one of the most moving moments of any Trek on film, right there.
I love it.
So good pick
for sure.
Okay, Abby, we're spinning the wheel. Here we go. Okay, Abby, your first topic. Oh, this one's going way back. Top 5 scenes in a turbo lift. It's episode 16 from December of 2017. I think that might be our first scenes in Trek show. Scenes in a turbo lift. Abby, I love this.
I love this one too. And this is kind of funny because this was one of the ones I found the easiest to pick because I had just watched and talked about one. And my 5 words are: Archer just can't look back. #brave resignation. And it's Enterprise Shockwave Part 1, where he steps off the bridge thinking that he's going to go over and Silik is going to take him onto his ship. And he says his little goodbyes that aren't really goodbyes to everybody. And he keeps it together. And he even reminds them not to give Porthos cheese. And then he steps into that turbo lift and he doesn't turn around. And when you watch Scott Bakula's face in that moment, he's playing off no one else. This is all him. And it's maybe 7 seconds, but you can see his whole face when the door's shut. His face just goes, ugh. And his shoulders come down and his head goes a little bit. And then you can hear the doors open and he stands back up straight and turns around. And then there's the apocalypse. And if it was me, I would have stayed on the turbo lift, but props to him for being the brave guy that he is and stepping off. But that scene is just so first season Archer in Enterprise, and it encapsulates so much. And we've all had those moments at work, at a social function, at something where you have to keep it together. And you know you're going to have to do it again in a minute. So you can't let yourself completely fall apart, but you have that moment of just like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? I'm so overwhelmed. And then you pull it back together. And that's so subtle and so important and such a beautiful turbo lift scene.
So good. Is that's the one too, where right before he gets on, somebody asked him a question. He's like, T'Pol's in command.
T'Pol's in charge.
Yeah. Don't ask me how I'm going.
Exactly.
So good. That's an intense scene. I love it. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay, Carl, we're going to roll through these. Here we go. Tonga wheel. Carl, you've got top 5 short Trek moments. Okay, so this is episode 75 from January of 2020. It's our only short Treks topic. And I love that. This is a super tight one. So what do you got?
So this is not really a huge moment in the episode, but this is more of a wish list kind of pick for me. So the 5 words in a hashtag: we need more Cadet Sidhu, and hashtag maybe season 2. This is the moment at the end of Ask Not, where Cadet Sidhu goes into engineering and they do that wonderful shot of her just taking in this is the first time we've seen this version of the Enterprise, and it's not exactly the same engineering that we see in Strange New Worlds, but it's still the first look at the modern, updated Enterprise engineering. And it just makes me think, like, isn't she still on the ship? We should see more of this character, because I loved seeing her in that one short Trek, and I would just love to see her show up in season 2 of Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, that character really resonated with people for sure. Yeah, that was a fun one. You guys, any take on Sidhu? I'm getting the feeling we're not going to see her at this point, but
no, I don't think so. But it would be nice.
I'm just hoping they come back with a whole bunch more short treks, and maybe she can be in one of those if she's busy doing some sort of other wonderful acting gig that isn't Star Trek.
You never know.
I was just so sure that she was going to be in Strange Worlds in some capacity when that happened, when that short trek aired, and it was still fresh, and Strange Worlds was officially kind of coming out, like going to be a thing.
It seemed like it would be a good fit, but there's so much that goes into that. It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I think Amrit Kaur is on that other show on HBO somewhere, I think, right now. Right. So she's probably, I don't know, it's really a timing thing.
Okay, I guess I'm up. Here we go, you guys. Okay, I got episode 21, top 5 doppelgangers, duplicates, and doubles from 2018. Okay, so Carl, you said this, and my first thought that popped into my head is Fresh. We're just talking about it, and Strange New Worlds. And so I'm going to go with A Quality of Mercy, the two Pikes together, duplicates, doubles together in this amazing, perfect episode of Star Trek. And my 5 words and a hashtag here we go. Okay, I got this. Mustard green and now maroon, hashtag Balance of Terror revisited. There we go. So we get to see Pike and a monster maroon facing off with the younger Pike. Just incredible episode of Star Trek. So that's my quick pick. Any comment on the two Pikes in A Quality of Mercy?
My little costume nerd heart loves that you made your 5 words about the costumes.
Yeah. I did think I could have gone with the Janeways too, because we were right in the middle of the end of Prodigy season 1, and there are lots of Janeways everywhere you look. There's actually one moment in Mind Walk where there's 3 different Janeways on screen at the same time. It's crazy. Okay, let's go to round 2. Spinning the Tonga wheel for Bill Mann. Okay, Bill, you got, I love this one. Top 5 pop culture references. It's episode 17 from December of 2017, exactly 5 years ago. We did that one with our good friend, Star Trek historian John Tenuto. So what do you got, Bill? Top 5 pop culture references.
So the first thing that popped into my head was 5 words and a hashtag, embracing old school science fiction, hashtag Captain Proton. And it is Night, the opening of Night. I think
old school sci-fi,
old school science fiction, embracing the sort of throwback, ironically, kind of like what Star Trek is not. I think what made Star Trek unique wasn't there in 1966, but the fact that Star Trek took a much more kind of self-serious, honed approach to the genre compared to something like Lost in Space, like Buck Rogers serials, things like people would typically be seeing, I guess, in the 1950s, 1960s, Forbidden Planet aside. And I just thought it was an interesting, cool idea especially for Voyager, which is so often kind of like a really serious kind of buttoned up show, to embrace the silly of that side of the genre. And I think giving that to Tom Paris and Harry Kim kind of gave that friendship some new juice right around the halfway point of the show. And I wish there was a little more of it. I think it really caught on. I always really enjoyed it, and I've gotten to like it even more the older I've gotten.
Computer, run program.
Citizen of Earth, surrender. Do not resist.
I am Borg.
Surrender.
The robot has been neutralized. May I leave now?
Come on, Seven. Give it a chance. The galaxy's at stake.
I love it. That's as prominent as it gets. What a incredible usage from Voyager in season 5 of the old school sci-fi serials.
And to open a season with it too. It's like the first thing you see at the beginning of the season premiere. It's really like kind of jarring. Again, another thing I really remember from being a kid and watching that for the first time. being excited for the season premiere and like bang.
Well, you know what would make a great animated short trek? Captain Proton.
Oh my God.
Right?
It seriously would.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
if you've seen the cartoons that the Delta Flyers put out for the episodes that have Captain Proton in them, and they've got the little mug and everything, they would 100% do it, and they would be the most adorable cartoons. It would be great.
Definitely.
Okay, spinning the wheel for Abby Sommer. Here we go. Another awesome one's recent from June of 22. Top 5 coolest looking aliens, episode 137. I love that episode. What a topic.
All right. Well, and what's funny is this is a more recent pick as well for me. So this was the very first one that I thought of too, a definite gut instinct pick. And it's 5 words is zebra stripes and radical empathy. Hashtag morphing moods, and it's the Rongovians from Spock Amok in Strange New World.
Because God, they're so good.
Yes.
This is
so good.
I can't believe how good these aliens are. I talked about it on our recap show for season 1.
Yeah, they're incredible. I mean, and it goes down to like their fingernails.
Yeah.
It's just so meticulously well done. And it's one of the ones where there's enough face under the prosthetics that's still out there under the makeup and everything that you can see so much of the movement of those smaller muscles, which makes all their different emotions that we see them going through in this so much easier to read, and so much it gives you clues when you watch it again, knowing what's coming, watching their face and watching the makeup. And their stripes are just gorgeous, and they're all similar but different, and it's almost like their fingerprints. I wonder if there'd be any two that would ever be the same, and how cool is that? So they stood out, and not only did they look cool, they had a cool looking solar ship. So I mean, there we go.
Everything about them, the story, the episode, and the simplicity of the design makes you, it's like mind blowing to think we haven't seen that before. It feels so fresh and new.
Yeah.
That episode is low key, like, I think that's going to go down as
that's an incredible one.
Yeah, I think time is going to be really kind to Spock and Mach, and it's going to go up, up, up.
Yeah,
it's a kind of a masterpiece.
You are right.
It's freaking good.
You are right.
The one I go back to the most from the season, because it's also not as heavy as some of the other ones, so you can rewatch it a bunch. And quotable and fun. So and it's just, but it has so much heart in it as well. It's a great episode, and they are the perfect new alien to be introduced to, and they look super cool.
I'm glad Abby mentioned the expressiveness of the that you could get through that makeup. I just immediately thought of that moment when they stroll into the room with Pike and Spock, and they're looking very stoic, and then Pike just holds out his hand to shake him, and he just lights up immediately and starts laughing, and just all of that expressiveness on his face that usually you couldn't get in that kind of makeup. And then just to your other point, this is my favorite episode of the first season by far, and just the idea that we got pretty much an hour of just character work. In modern Star Trek, which we haven't been getting much of in the other shows because we've been busy with plot things, which is great. But just to spend an hour with these people and kind of watch them interact with various settings, I thought was just a wonderful change of pace, and I loved every second of it.
Microcosm of why Strange New Worlds was so successful. And that scene you talked about, Carl, that's a perfect example or display of how effective that makeup was instantaneously when he lights up. So good.
What is this? We have been waiting in our ship while you are here discussing our upcoming negotiations.
You must be Captain Vaso.
And you are Pike?
Actually, I'm Admiral Robert April, if I may.
I speak to Captain Pike only.
Well, I'm Captain Pike. Nice to meet you. Well, if I'd known you were coming early, I could have cooked you up an Earth specialty.
Captain Pike, the pleasure is mine. I'm Vaso. This is my first officer, Brax.
Okay, spinning the wheel for Carl's second pick. Okay. Oh, I love this. We are covering. Oh, so this is another very specific one, Carl. You're 2 for 2 on being in kind of. You had 12 to choose from. in your first pick with 12 short treks. You only have 3 to choose from for this one. It's episode 37, the top 5 Kelvin timeline moments from August 2018. And Bill, you were on that show.
I sure was.
Yeah, that's great. So you have the scope of so far of 15 episodes to choose from.
Well, luckily, just like Bill, I was kind of going with my gut reaction to these. So if I were to
10? Wait, is it it's
both
10
universes?
Or is it, yeah, it's 4.
It's 10.
Yeah, it's 4 and 6.
It's 10.
It's
yeah.
10. Yeah. I can't add. Anyway, go. Sorry.
So both universes woven together perfectly. # I'm emotionally compromised. It's the moment where Kirk meets Prime Spock in the cave in Star Trek 2009.
So good.
Up until this point, we've been on this really interesting Star Trek story. We knew going into this movie. I tried to stay as far away from any spoilers whatsoever as I could. And we're getting a really cool story, but this is going to be a reboot and they're recasting everybody and it's going to be this new telling of Star Trek and everything. And so far I'm really enjoying it. I like all the choices they've made. I think the cast is great. And then all of a sudden Leonard Nimoy shows up and you realize that this isn't a wholly new thing. This is actually connected to the entire history of Star Trek that we've had for the past however many years it was when this came out. And it just lets so much depth to the entire story for me. Like, this is, what happens when you mess around with history and the timelines have diverged. And now Kirk and Spock are kind of at odds with each other. And what does that mean? And the way Leonard Nimoy's Spock kind of guides Kirk along, and then there's that wonderful scene at the end of the movie when the two Spocks meet up, and I was already enjoying the movie, but this moment just made me realize, yes, these people know what they're doing, and they're being very they're respectful of the material. They're not just trying to reinvent Star Trek. They really are adding to Star Trek, not trying to do it over again. So that really is what sold me on the movie completely.
Yeah, that's a memorable introduction and moment. That's perfect summary. I love it.
I feel like, Carl, you read my mind, because that is almost exactly what I have in my notes over here. Right. Slightly different ones. But yeah, that was the moment I remember. And I saw this movie by myself for the first time in the theater. And that was the moment I gasped out loud and people around me looked at me and I was like, what? It's opening night in a Star Trek movie. What do you expect?
That's so good.
So that was exactly the moment. And yeah, perfect pick.
James T. Kirk. Excuse me? How did you find me?
Oh. How do you know my name?
I have been and always shall be your friend.
Look, I don't know you.
I am Spock.
Bullshit.
I distinctly kind of remember the feeling of, I almost forgot that Leonard Nimoy was going to be in this. And
right.
That was like the first thing we found out when the movie got announced. I remember that San Diego Comic-Con moment where they brought him out. And that was sort of the first big piece of news, I guess, that was kind of official about it, that Leonard Nimoy was going to be involved. And to the movie's credit, for the first hour and 10 minutes or whatever it was, he's not there. And it was working so well that I wasn't waiting for that. And that's such a big deal. And when he shows up, it's just such a, wow, freaking Leonard Nimoy is in this. And like you said, Carl, kind of connects everything and establishes that it's not just a clean slate reboot. It's a huge moment.
Seriously. 13 years ago. I love it.
Crazy.
Okay, here we go. I'm spinning the wheel for my second pick. Okay, this is a fresh episode from just a few months ago, September 22. It is episode 142, our top 5 Uhura episodes in honor of the loss of the great Nichelle Nichols.
Didn't I say it's perfect that you're highlighting this one at the end of the year where she passed?
Yeah,
that is a cosmic moment right there.
I like that. So now
Definitely.
I have to.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
want to. I mean, my first thought, of course, is Balance of Terror and these picks that I had where she's at the con and she's making a real impact. That's such a great episode. I highly recommend people listen to that one. So I got to think of something that I didn't pick because those are fresh in my mind. Okay, I got this. So I was actually thinking about this as a pick for Scenes at a Table, which was one of our episodes a couple weeks ago. And I ended up not picking it. It's really short, but I'm going to go with the Corbomite Maneuver. And it's that's the very first produced episode of Star Trek, right? So it's not one of the pilots. It's the first produced episode. And there's a scene at a table right at the very beginning after they kind of run into the cube, and everyone's at the table and everyone's participating. And there's Uhura right there in the middle of the conversation and taking part of it. It's a really short scene, couple minutes, and Bailey's being an idiot and Kirk yelling at him. And she's, of course, wearing mustard. So, which is different, of course, because it's her first scene. But it's just the fact that she's there right at the beginning. I almost picked that for Scenes at the Table because it just kind of stuck with me. And everyone's there because you got Scotty and Sulu, and I think Bones is there too. Everyone's there except Chekhov. So cool scene. Okay, my 5 words and a hashtag. Maybe let's do color again.
I sense a theme.
Wearing mustard at the start. Hashtag we love you, Nichelle. That's all I got.
Oh,
nice.
She's the best. All right, let's do it. We're going to round 3. It's the Dabo round. Dabo! Let's do it. We're spinning the Dabo wheel, and now we're spinning the Tonga wheel.
And having some soup.
And soup.
Oh, sorry. It's not. It's the soup round, not the Dabo round. This show's all over the place. Okay, let's do some soup too. We got it all.
I think I can handle some soup.
All right, here we go, Bill. You got. This is like my favorite topic ever. It is top 5 moments in song. We were just talking a little bit about music. Yeah. So it's episode 86 from June of 2020. Great episode with Jen Tift and Justin Oser. So let's do it, Bill. What do you got?
First thing that came to mind for me is 5 words in the hashtag. Zora has it under control. Hashtag stormy weather.
Brand new.
Brand new stuff. I really like that episode a lot, and I think that moment is one of my favorites from season 4 of Discovery. And that storyline, the kind of emergence of Zora as this enhanced artificial intelligence, which kind of pushes forward the data, what's artificial and what's real, and who gets rights and who doesn't, and how do we figure all this out? All like the kind of advancement of that story in a really new and interesting way was my favorite thing about that season. And this sort of is, I think, the most emotional part of that. I think Zora saving the ship and taking care of Michael, like the whole thing that happens in the next episode, but to connect her, the whole dilemma comes from Zora loves the crew so much that she doesn't want to risk anybody and is protective. And this sort of illustrates that before we get there, that this is Zora's instinct. This is the ship's instinct. And popped into my head when I read it. I know there are other big moments in song, as illustrated in the episode, in the conversation you guys had at the time, but that's what stuck to me.
Pretty damn powerful.
Yeah, that's one of those ones that every time it comes up on my Star Trek music shuffle, you have to just stop what you're doing and listen, because it's such a short bit, but it's so hauntingly gorgeous. That's goosebumps every single time.
So good. I love it. Okay. Oh man, I love that topic. And again, that's a great episode. Okay, if you haven't heard that one, episode 86, go check it out. That one took a long time to edit because we added a lot of music. Okay, here we go. Abby's third pick, spinning the wheel. Okay. Oh, this is one of our series specific topics. Here we go. Top 5 Voyager underrated, episode 127 from January of 22, also this year. That's our third pick from this year. No, 4th.
Well, I have to say I'm really glad I got this one, because this is one of my favorite episodes.
Cool.
So my 5 words are Tuvok is good with kids and hashtag Morag and its innocence.
Yeah.
I love this episode. I have loved this episode since the very first time I saw it. In fact, I was on our friend John's podcast, Trek Profiles, and talked extensively about this one. So if you want to hear more, anyone can go pop that on. But I love Tuvok. He might be my favorite character in Voyager, though that changes as I rewatch every time. And I love that we get to see the aspect of him as he would be a father somewhat without actually seeing him with his own kids. And I love that. I work with kids. I've always been drawn to kids. So it's nice to see kids acting like kids and adults acting like when you're annoyed with the kids, but you still have to take care of them. His Tuvok finger, when he puts it up and he looks down, and it's that, you all know exactly what I mean, because he's looking at those kids and they all go, oh, sorry. And it's just so many little moments like that. And he is deeply respectful of those children immediately. And he listens to them and he believes them and he goes with that. And that is something that is not instinctive for a lot of adults to kids. We say, oh, you're treating them like a kid. Well, yeah, they're kids, but you still need to treat them like people with opinions and thoughts and fears and feelings. And he's a Vulcan dealing with scared kids. That's amazing. And how calm he is and how he sings. Like, it's just, that episode is wonderful. And every time I watch it, I just feel good about the world and about life. And even though it ends on kind of a sad note, because all of what we thought were kids die. The elders, right? Well, yes, right. But they're not actually kids. I know. So, he's going with to be so respectful at that last moment, and he understands what an honor it is to be with somebody at that last moment like that, and it's just beautiful. So I am not sad about Loving Innocence, and I will talk to anyone about it at any time.
What is this? Lift us up where suffering cannot reach in Strange New Worlds, where they're killing the kids. I've said this many times. This is an episode this is a great pick, Abby. It's such an underrated episode, and I really love it and appreciate it now as a 50-plus person. And when I first saw it, I remember just being like, no, this is not for me. Kids, I'm not into kids. I know this is not enough happening. And then the reverse aging storyline, I wasn't into it. But then, over the years, it's like you catch it and I watch it. It's like so freaking good. Tim Russ is so good in this episode, and the kids are actually pretty good. Especially the little girl is a really good actor. Yeah. So it really, really works, and it flips the script, of course, with the great ending and the interesting stuff going on the ship. I love it. Bill, Carl, anything?
Yeah, I was just going to add, we already said actually though that imagine Star Trek doesn't always have the best record when it comes to hiring child actors, and I think this one could have been really hard to get through if they made some less than good choices in who they picked, and I think they did a really good job of hiring people who could act and pull it off. So that made a big difference to me, at least.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more. I think it really is riding on the success of the child actors. We know what Tim Russ is going to bring, and he sure does. He's when you mentioned the Tuvok finger, Abby, I could the image just like flashed into my head. I saw it, and
that one better be on the episode artwork there, Jim. The Tuvok finger.
All right, I'll try to remember that. That's great.
It's a really good Tim Russ episode as well. But the kid actors, the child actors, really do deliver the goods in that and ensure its success.
Good stuff. All right, spinning the wheel. Let's see if we can free up Carl on this pick. Okay. Oh, we did, Carl. Oh, this is good, Carl. Here we go. Top 5 sports references, episode 104 from February of 2021. What do you got for a top 5 sports reference?
So this is more of a big picture one, actually, than just a specific reference. My 5 words in a hashtag are Cisco destroyed everything of value, hashtag not everything. And it's essentially could also work for another one of your topics, the arc of Cisco's baseball.
Right.
And I'm picking Call to Arms for my episode, but it really could run all the way through Sacrifice of Angels, really. I love it's such a great it's not really the last shot, but the idea of we've abandoned the station. It's a mess. We've sabotaged everything, and Ducat goes into the office and there's nothing left, and Wei-Yun's looking around and he's like, oh, I'm sure Sisko destroyed everything of value, and Ducat just looks at the desk and picks up the baseball. He's like, not everything. And Wei-Yun has no idea what this is about or anything, and he just says, it's a message that he's telling me he'll be back. And that the way it carries all the way through, so Ducat has the ball with him basically the whole time he's running the station whenever he's in ops. And then that last moment of Sacrifice of Angels when he hands the ball back to Sisko and says, I forgive you. It's one of my favorite little threads that they weave through in these serialized storytelling that they did so well on Deep Space Nine. And it was the first thing that occurred to me when I saw the topic.
Yeah, that's a moment. That's the perfect pick. And I can see that being the first thing to pop in your head. I mean, that's the series, right? It's as impactful a moment in the whole series. It's like defines the whole show.
And Kira's playing with it, if I remember right, in the Lower Decks episode, right? Or it's still there, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I love one of the things about you picking like his baseball arc in general is that covers such a variety of DS9 episodes. I mean, you've got the fun ones, you've got the funny ones, you've got the serious, perhaps one of the most serious moments in the entire series that you picked right there. And you've got all of these different character moments that come around it. I mean, Buck Bakai shows up at one point. So this is really showing the range of both Sisko and the series in episodes. If you just say, well, let's talk about Sisko's baseball, you got so much to choose from. And that's a cool pick.
I love that seasons 5, 6, and 7 all end kind of with a little note on where's the baseball. Season 5, he leaves it behind, and like you described, Carl, season 6,
so good.
They realize, he took it with him.
He took it with him. Yeah, that's right.
And then at the end, season 7, at the end of what you leave behind, Kira finds it, and I think is kind of reassured that maybe he will be back.
Yeah. People, that's why we do this show. I never put those three things together.
Really? You're kidding me.
I know. I'm an idiot. Hey, there's 870 episodes. We can't all pick up on it. People, that's amazing. I've never had that thought of each of those seasons ending with "Where's the baseball?" Amazing. Okay. All right. It's me again. Here we go. Spinning the wheel. Okay, I've got episode 49 from February 2019, our top 5 courtroom showdowns. Oh, this is hard because I immediately think of Rules of Engagement, which was my number 1 pick. I got a whole bunch of in my head that I don't want to pick. I'm not picking you, Ardra. I know. I think I may have picked her. I'm not picking Court Martial or anything like that. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to reset because this would not have aired yet in February of 19. So I am going to go with Unification 3 from Star Trek Discovery's third season, and Burnham having to stand up in what do they call it's the Takalan Ket. The Takalan Ket, which I love that because the beginning of that is my favorite part of that whole bit is when she's on the bridge and they're basically telling her, no, we're not giving you this stuff. And then she just screams out, Takalan Ket. And everyone's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, I can do that because I'm a Vulcan citizen. And I just love that moment. So that's not part of the courtroom showdown, but I love that moment. So, and the courtroom showdown is amazing. So let's do my 5 words on hashtag would be Burnham stands up for herself. Or no, maybe it's more appropriate to say Burnham has to learn herself or has to learn about herself. Something like that. There we go. Hashtag Takalan Ket. Anyway, because the whole point of that trial is Burnham has to go raw and has to expose herself. And her mother makes her do that. And it's really, really good. That's a great episode. That's a great episode. Unification 3. We get some Spock in it. I love it. Anybody got some take on Unification 3?
I love all the Vulcan aesthetics that you get in that episode too. The costuming and all the little gongs and all the courtroom stuff that goes with it too.
Yeah.
It's just the Vulcan aesthetic has just grown from TOS all the way up to where we see it now in Strange New Worlds and Discovery in the future. But it's always, you would know it was Vulcan. It's so simplistic, and that adds to this scene to have all that like geometry framing what Michael while she's talking. And it's really interesting when you go back and look and see how it helps shape where her character is on the screen. Really? I love the Vulcan aesthetic.
I love that there's definitely some nerd yelling at the podcast right now saying it's Navarre.
Sorry, Navarre, you're right.
And I love that. Right. Whoever you are yelling that, I love you. Okay, Bill.
I love you too, and I stand 100% corrected. Sorry.
It's just such a classic Star Trek kind of idea. Like I just love how often Star Trek does these courtroom kinds of situations in alien ways, and it's not just a traditional, the practice kind of, courtroom drama. It's got a twist to it, and it embraces the other cultures that are part of Star Trek. And this is such a fresh something we've never seen before. It's a part of Vulcan tradition that's newly presented to us, and it's so driven by character, and is sort of at that pivot point in season 3 where we kind of need Burnham to figure it out and figure out which direction she wants to go in, and the person she's going to be. So it's all the good plot stuff is there, all the good character stuff is there. It all marries together, and it's a great episode that I think has gotten better with time as well. Another one that I think the more and more, Carl, if I'm not, did I tweet like favorite episodes of each show, and did you pick Unification 3? Is that like flashing into my head for some weird reason?
I may have. I mean, it's certainly one of my favorites of that season. And the thing I remember about it is how they would announce episode titles ahead of time, and I would try to be reading ahead, and then I got, wait, Unification 3, and I kind of like did, my hands rubbed together. I'm like, oh, okay, because that's gonna be interesting, because I never would have expected part 3 of Unification to occur however many years after Unification 2. I just have to agree with everything that's been said so far about it. It's a fantastic episode of Trek.
Yeah, it really does. It's better with time, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Round 4, I guess. We're going the other way. Round 4. Bill, we're spinning the wheel. Okay, all right, we're back to Scenes in Trek, episode 83 from May of 2020. Top 5 scenes in sickbay.
Ooh, so
love these.
Yeah, I love these too. This is like, I think, my favorite like sub series of Trek Ranks, if I can say.
Me 3.
Well,
I like the abstract ones too, but these are fantastic.
Abstract is really cool. The first thing that popped into my mind for Scenes in Sickbay is an Enterprise choice. It's my 5 words in a hashtag are Archer's plea to the Organians. Hashtag compassion and empathy. I feel like that's my favorite Scott Bakula performance in the series. Yes. I just feel like he's so confident by that point in the show. Archer's so well developed and arrived by that point. And it's, I love season 4 for the mini arcs and the bigger swath storytelling that we get, but you get this little old school throwaway kind of single episode of Star Trek that's so well done, so driven by character, and it ends with like a classic Kirk kind of moment where he's pleading on behalf of humanity and giving like the entire Star Trek mission statement. It's kind of not something that he certainly does it throughout the show in different ways, and Enterprise does a great job, I think, of spinning that and doing it differently because of the premise of the show. But this is such a classic throwback to exactly what like William Shatner would do as Captain Kirk in a TOS episode, but in a fresh and new way. And I love that scene. I love the emotional stakes involved. Trip is dead at that point, like the good Trip death, and the well done one. It just that entire episode works so well, and it culminates there. It's the climax of the episode. It's everything kind of coming together.
I understand why you won't get involved with a species' natural development. I faced that decision myself. It isn't an easy one to make.
Then we agree.
No, we don't. Our encounter with the virus was an accident, one that you could have prevented.
Then how would we ever learn about you?
Ask us. Talk to us. Just like you're doing now.
Talking is a limited form of communication for us. We're much more advanced than humans.
Not from where I'm standing. Maybe you've evolved into beings with abilities I can't comprehend, but you've paid a hell of a price. You've lost compassion and empathy, things that give life meaning. If that's what it takes to be advanced, I don't want any part of it.
It's kind of a no-brainer for me. There's a lot of great sick bay scenes that I could go with if I thought more deeply, and I think I probably may have if I was prepping for an episode traditionally. I'm sure it would be on my list. I don't know if it would be number one if I was really digging into them and thinking about where I would stack them, but I had to go with it because it was legit first thing that came out.
I love that jumped into your head first. It's such a great scene. That episode, it's like the most unexpectedly great episode of Star Trek. Just out of nowhere, it's like, wow. First time I watched it, I've said it many times, I fell out of my chair when the Organians were revealed. And then, like a half hour after you're watching it, you're just like, I think that's like an all-time great episode of Star Trek, right? That was incredible. I rewatching it, over and over. I love, and I'm not a big fan of characters changing. Possessions. And we're going to do top 5. Faltor Pan? Is that what it Faltor Pandemonium. Someday we're going to do top 5 Faltor Pans where people are possessed, because it's not my favorite thing in Star Trek, but I love that episode. Top 10.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned that this is such a peak of Archer, because really I think he goes on such an underappreciated journey from the beginning to where he is now, because he is first in a lot of things. And to have seen all of those firsts that went well and went poorly and everywhere in between get him to a place where he can do this, like you said, with the confidence and the ease and the experience behind it, to know that this was the right way to go about it. And that is so neat to see. And as soon as you said that, I pictured the whole scene in my mind. So that's a great pick.
And I kind of go back to what you were saying with the Shockwave pick. Like the difference between Scott Bakula in season 1 and Scott Bakula in season 4 really does kind of chart that character's journey. It's really good.
Okay, let's go to Abby's 4th pick. All right, Abby, you've got, this is interesting. So this is one of those picks. This is one of those topics that's quite different now from when we first did it in January of 2020. It was episode 74. It was our top 5 Picard episodes. And of course, when we did it, we mean Picard the character, not Picard the series. So now there's an additional 20 episodes to choose from. So top 5 Picard episodes. Abby, what do you got?
Okay, so I have to say that when I was doing all the homework and coming up with 150, the ones that were the hardest for me to come up with something that wasn't nebulous were the ones that were a character, because I only am going to get one. And there's so many in the characters that you've covered. Yeah. And Picard was the last one that I could really find exactly what I wanted, because I did want to honor the Picard I grew up with and loved in my formative years, and the Picard we see now, because I love both versions so much. Yep. And I love that the newer Picard goes back to some of the things that I'm glad they're not dropping from his past. And that's where this moment came in. And it was one where I think Patrick Stewart just acted his butt off. And you have to honor that, because they are so... Patrick Stewart is so much in Picard, and Picard is so much in him now. When you hear him talk, I wanted one of those moments. So I've got 5 words: former Borg share hard truth, and hashtag every damn day of my life. And it's from Stardust City Rag, which is probably my least favorite episode of the series Picard so far as a whole. But that moment between him and Seven, where they're talking about, did you fully regain your humanity? And just that back and forth. And they are both so raw and human, yet so short and precise and clipped like Borg when they're back and forthing like this. The first time I saw it, every hair on my body stood up. And every time I rewatch, I'm like, wow, there is so much there that is unspoken in that tiny little scene. But Picard, you watch his face, and it is a masterclass in facial acting, because you can see how many things are running through his mind in that tiny little conversation. And I think the fact that they go back and talk about that trauma now even more than they did in TNG is giving you a full picture of a life. And I appreciate that. And I hope that, I know we're going forward with other things in season 3, but I hope that that is always still there somewhere, because I don't think that character is the same without that experience.
Yeah, that's an amazing pick.
Great.
No, I totally, I'm also not the hugest fan of Stardust City Rag, the episode, but I'd be hard pressed to find a moment like in an episode of Picard that resonates more with me than that. First of all, just the kind of shock and awe of that's Jerry Ryan and Patrick Stewart on screen together. Yeah. Like that's crazy. Yeah. It's such a cool little gift, and that those two characters are talking about that thing and relating on that level. It was such a, I can't say unexpected, because we knew Jerry Ryan was going to be in it. Like that it wasn't like a spoilery, like, wow, but that it was that well done, and that it enhanced both of those characters that much, and told us so much about where both of them have been over the last several years, that this is still hanging over them and that they're still struggling with it. That says a lot about the impact of both of their experiences with Borg.
Yeah. And it makes sense too. Like you think about, they're coming from two different shows originally, but of course these two people would have at least like traded texts or something, I mean, they have a very unique experience that they're the only two that we know of that can really share that in that moment. And I think, like you said, Abby, that the micro acting that Patrick Stewart does in that moment is just so good. And I'd be remiss to not share that I also really love how Jeff Russo drops in the Voyager theme over that scene. Just that whole, and I'm with you. Like Stardust City Rag for me is it's not my least favorite, but it's certainly not my favorite episode. But that moment alone just elevates it a couple notches on my list for me.
Yeah, so I looked it up because the episode, the mismatched tones of the episode are really kind of jarring, because on one hand it's a farce, and on the other hand there's some real serious shit going down. Like 3 people get murdered. I mean, it's kind of strange. But it's number 6 on Trek Ranks for me, because I don't know, for some reason in the end it doesn't matter.
I'm a bit sensitive to eye things. So there are about 7 seconds of this episode I honestly have not seen because I can't. And the first time I had like 7 people warn me as soon as the episode dropped, within like minutes. My phone was like, Abby, cover your eyes. You don't want to see this. And I was like, okay. And I'm kind of sad that there's 7 seconds that I just can't bring myself to see. So maybe that's my own personal bias with this. And
yet you still pick the episode. I love it.
Exactly.
All right, let's go to Carl's 4th pick. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry, Carl, you're back into the box here.
Oh no.
But this is awesome, because this one is fresh. So just like Picard has 20 new episodes from when we did this one, I love this. I actually want to revisit this topic. We did it in episode 12, October of 2017, top 5 series premieres. So there have been like 4 more series premieres, I think, since this aired. Yeah. So that's like, there's basically got 50% more canvas to choose from when we did that show. So, Carl, actually, did we include Discovery in that? I can't remember. It was October 7th. So it would have been just after Discovery dropped. Anyway, what do you got? Top 5 series premieres.
Yeah, so 50% more episodes, but I still went old school on this one.
Okay, that's fair.
Nailed it from the start. # early season 1 high. I went with Broken Bow. I still think it's my favorite premiere episode that they've done.
Still my favorite.
And
me too.
And that's not to knock any of the modern Treks. And in all honesty, I think it's a little unfair to compare them because the concept of a pilot episode really isn't quite the same as it is now. Like, and you look at something like Encounter at Farpoint and how different it is to episode 2. Broken Bow really isn't that much different. I mean, it's the first story that kicks off everything. So it maybe falls more into the modern category of things. But I just think everything they did in that episode sets up things in a really interesting way. I think pretty much every major concept that we have to understand in season 1, at least at the beginning, is introduced in a way that makes sense and is done well. You get the Klingons, you get the concept of the temporal Cold War right off the bat. You get the decon gel, I guess. If you want to talk about everything that's in these episodes.
Is there an issue with that? I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
I'm kidding.
It might have.
I never had a problem with it, but I love it. Listen, this is my favorite premiere episode as well. Sorry,
for a show, and I'll be honest, I started watching it and then I kind of fell off about maybe a little bit after the Trip Gets Pregnant episode. It was something I had to pay attention to watch anyway, because of where I was, and I just kind of fell off, and I've only really since a few years ago caught up on it. But that it still works. It's a great episode of Star Trek, and I have nothing bad to say about it. And I think it just sets things up perfectly.
It says a lot that you picked it, even though you kind of fell off from it. But that's how good this is.
Well, I have a whole lot of takes. If anyone wants to go back and listen to me for like almost an hour, we covered it on my podcast. But yeah, this is my favorite premiere, and not just because I'm such an Enterprise fan, but for all the reasons that have already been said. It's a great story. It's good character introductions. It's a beautiful ship flyby. It's everything that you could want, and it's got cool aliens. I mean, the Suliban are really neat. The Klingons are in a cornfield, and Phlox does his giant smile. So, I mean, it's hard to, and Porthos, the cherry on top. So, there you go. There's a perfect premiere.
Bill, what's your favorite premiere?
If I had to, the one I wrote down was Emissary, but Broken Bow is right on its tail.
Yep. Yes.
And I was really kind of taken with what you said, Carl, because it's so true. I think looking at particularly those Berman era, for lack of a better term, pilots, they're such different animals than even the new stuff. I guess if you balled up the Vulcan Hello and Battle of the Binary Stars, you'd kind of replicate that feeling a little bit for Discovery. But those double feature length, really ambitious swings that those 90s era Star Trek shows would kick off with are just such different animals than say Remembrances or Strange New Worlds is. It's just a different thing. Like those other ones are kind of more just kind of kicking off a story and Strange New Worlds.
These are real launch points.
These are real launch points that are really emphasizing the big and heavy swing and introducing big new things. And it makes it difficult to kind of compare them in some ways. And what I often find is I elevate them a little bit because of how grand they are.
Right. I think that makes perfect sense. And I'll say, you said, because Discovery, you package those two together, then it feels a little bit more like it. But then it's completely different because it's like a series launch, because Context is for Kings is the real launch of the series. It's fascinating in that regard. And then I'll say with Picard, I say this all the time, those 3 episodes should be treated as one. The first 3 episodes is 1 2-hour movie.
Definitely.
Together as one unit, they're fantastic. Separate, it's a little bit different. So anyway, okay.
Well, before we leave this topic, do you know what's the most like an old school premiere that we have now is Prodigy with Lost and Found.
Yeah, true.
That feels like a real big swing, and it's double the length of normal. And that one feels the most like a 90s kind of premiere.
That's true. And when we do our Trek Ranks Prodigy ranks, there's going to only be 19 episodes, because that's one episode in our book the way we count them. Sorry,
Absolutely.
Bill. What do you got?
You stole my point. That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Do we count? Does Lost and Found count as 1 or 2?
It's 1, man. It aired. No, it isn't. It aired as 1 episode. It aired.
Yeah, and even on Paramount
Go to
Plus,
Paramount.
They put them on as 1
it has
and 2
2
next
titles,
to each
but
other.
it's
One thing.
episode. You can't watch it as 2 episodes on Paramount Plus. It's 1 episode. There's no All Good Things Part 2. I will fight that all the way to the end. All Good Things is a 2-hour episode. It's 1 episode. I know there's 2 production codes on it. That's how it works.
I know,
but
that's where I get.
But you don't watch it that way. You never.
No, I know.
It. You're not going to watch. I don't watch things as 2 episodes. It's 1 episode. And by the way, The Cage is an episode of Star Trek, Bill. It is. Okay, that's a different topic, people. Sorry. So here we go. I got to do mine here. Spinning the wheel. Okay. All right. Oh, I joked about this earlier, and here it is. Episode 90 from August of 2020. It's top 5 first contact moments. So, damn it. I can't pick first contact, obviously, because you already did that. I can't pick first contact for the TNG episode because I know I picked that in, or if I didn't pick it, I was definitely considering it. Okay, I got this. I'm going to do, you did first contact. I'm going to do first contact from Lower Decks, which is the Cerritos is assigned to their first contact mission. And by the way, the pun on that is just, that is layers of genius. First contact. God, that's so.
All right. Well, shout out to First Contact from Prodigy,
that's right.
which was my pick. Right along with those puns.
That's right.
That was so funny. Like those 3 together.
Yeah, First Contact with the dash in the middle. That's right. From Prodigy.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they really don't have the first contact, because the Archimedes, the ship is on the way to the planet. And that's when they get in trouble, and then the Cerritos has to come in and save the day because they were going to be there in support of first contact. So, and that episode, I'm just going to talk about that episode. It's just fantastic, spectacular movie level production in a 22-minute animated episode of Star Trek. Absolutely perfection. Plus, we get here we go. First contact with Cetacean Ops and Matt and Kimalu. Yes. So there we go. That's my what's my pick? Archimedes is in big trouble. Hashtag Cerritos to the rescue. There you go. Okay. I am making these up as we go, people. Any quick comments on first contact?
It's so good. I remember you're gonna have to edit this or bleep or something, but I just remember it ending and being like, "Fuck!" Like it's so good. It's such a good episode of Star Trek.
Yes, so good.
It ends so strong and it's so dramatically ambitious. That huge plot development of Captain Freeman getting whisked away off the ship is such an unexpected choice. And I also love the yin and yang. I didn't discover this myself, but the sort of flipping of the script, season 1 ends with the Titan kind of triumphantly coming and rescuing the Cerritos, and in season 2 it ends with the Cerritos kind of coming in and rescuing the Archimedes. It's so cool. It's
so cool.
Yeah, season 2 ends really well, really strong.
Great episode.
In that.
Can I echo the love for Cetacean Ops over here? Like I walked around grinning for like an entire day after that, just going, "Oh, Cetacean Ops!" And I wear that shirt from that season of the Lower Decks T-shirt collection probably more than any other Star Trek shirt I have. And people look at me funny every time, and I don't care because Cetacean Ops.
To Bill's point about the end of this episode, like they cap off one of the best low-key arcs I've ever seen in Star Trek for that whole season arc of the Pakled stuff.
So smart
that you don't even notice until it all happens, and then you're like, "Oh wait," and then you connect the dots. It's so well done. It's just great. Love it.
It's amazing. They do this in 10 episodes, 22 minutes. The amount of story they tell, so good. Okay, we've got it all. This is fantastic. Let's go to round 1.
Begin round 1.
Here we go. We're spinning the wheel for Bill's final pick. Oh, this is a fun one. I love this topic. Episode 126 from exactly 1 year ago, December 2021. Top 5 characters that fooled ya.
My 5 words in a hashtag are neither human nor Klingon. Both. Hashtag no identity, and it's Ash Tyler.
Okay.
Discovery.
Yeah.
I feel like the first season, so much was kind of there were so many mysteries surrounding that character, and when I put myself back into that time, I feel like, especially in the back end of that season, so much oxygen was taken up by who is Lorca, what's going on here, are they really going to do this, is it really bad? That the Ash Tyler thing kind of like subsided a little bit, I feel like, and they kind of snuck in the big reveal that he is kind of who we thought he was. And I this is sort of a bittersweet choice for me, because I really wish they did more with him. I feel like season 2 Ash Tyler's kind of a missed opportunity. I was really excited by the notion that he would be back in season 2 because of that. What I kind of said, the fact that he's this sort of blank slate of a person with no identity, and like what that to me, that's like such a classic Star Trek conceit for a character that there was an opportunity to really build on. The sort of, kind of a flipping of the script, a different take on Spock, like a character who's neither this nor that, and having to find his own truth in between and embrace different sides of different things. And they do a little bit of it with Ash Tyler, but in the first season, I think in the Wolf Inside, which would be my episode pick, that scene at the end of that episode when he activates is pretty bone chilling. Like there's a little moment where he like kind of cracks his neck, and you hear his neck crack actually, and that's the moment that he's done. Like he's Klingon now, and when they meet each other and fight is great. Yes, too. Yeah, he meets himself, and that triggers him. There's a lot of great moments in that back half of season 1 when they're in the mirror universe, and I think a lot of my favorites are in The Wolf Inside, and they're involving that. So part of this is kind of, I wish there was more there, and I think there was more potential there, more meat on the bone, but it came to mind.
I'm rewatching Discovery season 1 right now, and I have to say that this is a fantastic pick because it was the mystery, and I'm rewatching it, remembering the weeks between the episodes and all the theorizing and all the chat and all the fake IMDb pages, and it was just, but it was fun. See, you're all laughing because you remember too. I mean, that's part of the fun of it dropping once a week instead of a season coming out all at once. And while I think Discovery is better when you binge a season, I think this kind of plot is better the first time around without binging. So I really appreciated that part of this arc.
This was the only time really that I was like wishing that the internet wasn't what the internet is.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to comment on that. And
just thinking about like Javed Iqbal's IMDb page being a picture of Vogue.
That's so good.
Come on.
So here, the mysteries in season 1 work so well unless you're a diehard Star Trek fan following every little tiny thing on the internet. I have multiple people who aren't Trekkies come up to me who watched it later or binged it and were like, holy shit, that guy was a Klingon? I couldn't believe that. Or Lorca they went to the mirror universe, Lorca was bad the whole time. I can't believe that. It was a huge shock. They absolutely worked unless you were a diehard Star Trek fan, because the internet's too smart for us. By the way, we
still love it.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I loved season 1 of Discovery. I 100% never would have seen that coming with Vogue and Ash. I never would have seen it coming. In the old days, that would have 100% fooled me if I hadn't been told what was coming by the damn internet. Okay, let's move on. Abby, your number 1 pick. Episode 98, top 5 episodes that feel like TOS. I love that topic. Very niche. Very niche topic.
Yeah, this was a fun one. And honestly, it was fun. I'm sure when you figure out what I'm talking about, you'll know exactly why. But this was the first one that came to mind. And so my 5 words are: prime directive workaround is classic. and then hashtag TOS like costumes, and it's TNG's symbiosis.
Oh,
because, wow,
yeah.
that was, I mean, you could even swap in characters from TOS into that episode and not that much would have to be changed. And well, I mean, even those costumes, and that was one of the reasons I've always felt like it was so TOS, because it was the 80s, but those were 60s costumes in the 80s fabric. And me being the costume nerd I am, it was so TOS. And now when we have Lower Decks, going back and revisiting them, which was one of my favorite parts of season 3, it that episode feels even more like a connection. And yeah, I don't think it's a fantastic episode of TNG, but it has its moments, and I'm sure we all know that it's the last moment that we see Denise Crosby as Tasha Yar that they filmed, and she does a little wave as they close the doors, and that's just a little heartwarming moment for all of us, like super Star Trek fans who, you know, the internet ruins things for, but also shows us those little moments if you hadn't noticed them.
I love it. It's a great pick. It totally feels like a TOS episode, and it's just it's just not fun. It's just an innocuous first season Trek episode. Nothing. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's fun to watch.
I thought for a moment from your 5 words and a hashtag you were going to say justice, actually. But I'm glad you didn't.
That works too.
That is true. And you know, first season TNG is very TOS for a reason.
Of course.
So.
Yep.
That's what I was about to say. I'm rewatching TNG season 1 right now, and it always strikes me that, and I'm sure Jim, you, or maybe any of you who might have been, was anybody watching TNG season 1 when it aired?
So I was one of those that kind of resisted early on, because I was like, nah, I gotta have Kirk, because I was 20 full of piss and vinegar. So, but I watched Encounter Farpoint when it launched and was like, and thought it was pretty good, but then I just didn't really watch, right? I just kind of caught some stuff here and there. But it was probably right around the end of the first season. It was probably right around Symbiosis, right around, it definitely was, because I remember it was when I caught Skin of Evil and they actually killed Tasha. I was like, holy shit, they just killed her? She's not on the show anymore? Wow, okay. I'm looking at you. This is good. So yeah. Anyways, I was watching. Carl, you were too?
Yeah, I was watching live the whole time. I remember sitting down. My mom was a big Trekkie, so she said we're gonna watch. Sat me down and watched it, and definitely watched pretty much all of TNG live.
All through.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask is I feel like just reading back people, contemporaneous reviews of the show, a lot of the common criticism of the first season was that it was kind of trying to recapture the original series, and some of the episodes, especially in the early part of season 1, are kind of redundant or repackaging of basic TOS kind of stories, whether it's obviously The Naked Now or there are elements of Journey to Babel and Lonely Among Us and others as well. But it really always strikes me when I watch the Next Generation that people always cite season 3 as like the point when the show like takes this ginormous jump forward, and it is in a lot of ways. It's definitely true that Marvin Rush as a cinematographer and Bob Blackman as costume designer, like the production elements really do come into their own there. But season 2 from season 1 is a crazy jump too. Like the show really does kind of stop trying to capture the same TOS vibes that were obviously so driving the show in the first season. And it really, like, I watched The Child, which is obviously not like a great episode by any means and has its own issues, but just in the first like 3 or 4 minutes of that, you're just like, whoa, this is a different show.
Yeah. Well, remember in the first season you had Bob Justman on the production team, DC Fontana, and William Ware Tice doing costumes, which is Tice, So, and I will say that one of your points there, I think, Bill, is that people were loving it season 1 and season 2 while they were airing. It was when season 3 and 4 it elevated that kind of the perception of, oh yeah, season 1's not that great in being the narrative, which I don't agree with, but that came later because at the time people were loving it. It's like, oh, this is fantastic. This is Star Trek, and this is taking it to a new level.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty young at the time, but I never thought anything negative about it, and I don't think my mom did either. I think you're dead on there. I mean, the only two things I'll say, is one, if you ever watch like Chaos on the Bridge or something like that. It's amazing that the show even survived.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as, and then I completely agree, Bill, that early on they were trying to recapture the TOS stuff and in the stories and everything, but the thing that always jumps out to me, especially the early season 1, is the forced banter they do at the end of the episode with like Picard and Riker. They're trying to do the Spock McCoy Kirk thing, and it never works. It's so forced and cringy.
And I think it really stands out as not working, like you were saying, Jim. When you think of TNG as a finished product and you see the show for kind of what it becomes, when you go back to that and see what they were trying to do, it just sticks out a little more. Like, man, they really haven't
that's
found it
is.
yet.
But
so, Abby, your season 1 choices. I'm sorry. Like that. Of course, it would come from TNG.
At the time, though, people were loving it. There's really no question. Okay, let's keep rolling. Carl, spinning the wheel. Here we go. All right, it's a fun one. Episode 32 from June of 2018. Top 5 holodeck episodes. What is your number one holodeck episode? I'm very curious about this.
All right, so this is the first one that came to mind, and you'll probably understand why in a second. 5 words: mystery or just red herring? Hashtag pile it on. Pile it on.
Oh, yes.
Ghost in the Machine from like 2 weeks ago on Prodigy.
This is my daughter's. Now it's their favorite episode. It used to be Time Amok, and now it's this one, hands down.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great.
I loved every second of this look at. You get these kids that are in this tough situation and they're going through all this stressful stuff. And it's like, how do these kids deal with all the stress they're going through? And how do they cope? They go off and of course, they're going to run off to the holodeck and have fantasy adventures. And like, Zero's going to go and do his, what is it? The Cellar Door Mystery Club or whatever it is that he's doing. A clue, yeah. and of course Janken is just gonna go off and beat the crap out of some Tellarites that are mean to him, and Dal's gonna be the captain of a pirate ship where everyone just does what he tells them. And then we were talking about the Captain Proton stuff. They do that great black and white film noir thing with the nightclub, and Murph goes off and lip syncs, and
that was crazy.
It was just dances.
It dances, and just the idea that they realize at the end, like, wait, this is just stringing us along. The solution is to not do this. They kind of pull a card out from the 80s movie War Games, where the only winning move is not to play. And that's how they solve them. And just being able to spend a half an hour and get to know who these kids are, and in a way that without all the stuff that's been happening around them, which I love. I've loved every episode of the show. Just finally treating them like, and of course, my hashtag, the ice cream scene. Like, what more needs to be said about the ice cream scene? It's
that's the best moment of the episode. Pile it on. That's so good.
Okay,
it's just a holodeck episode. So good. Sorry, Abby, go.
No, you had the best part of that scene, which is probably the best part of the episode, is when Gwen does the whipped cream straight into her mouth.
Right.
Because let me tell you, when Jen Tiff's review on Trek Course, she's like, I try to actively discourage this at my house. And as soon as it happened, they looked at me. Oh my God, that happened here too. Every kid looked at their parent and went, see, she did it right there. Amazing. And it's so humanizing is the wrong word, because obviously they're not all human, but that episode, just, you feel all these characters, and it stops the giant momentum of the season to focus on them again. And we've said over and over tonight how cool it is that New Trek is doing this and focusing on characters, and how we love that. And this show is so beautiful. I could go on forever about how much I love Prodigy and sharing it with my kids. So I love that you picked this.
That'll be our next episode. Okay, so let's close it out with my 5th pick. Spinning the wheel. Okay, episode 67, October 2019. Top 5 sneaky good episodes. Top 5 sneaky good episodes. Oh my God, what am I going to pick? I can't remember what I picked last time. This is a broad topic. I got to think of something that people pass over. they don't think it's good, but when you really dig in, it feels like it's a good episode. And for some reason, it just doesn't connect or resonate with people the way it should. All right, I think I can't remember what I might have had Peak Performance. I might have had some of those but those are too good. So, okay. All right. First thing to pop into my head. Here we go. It's from Enterprise Season 1. And it's Sleeping Dogs. I'm going with Sleeping Dogs because it's
nice.
Cool.
It's a cool episode. There's no reason there's so much going on in this episode with the ship. They're trying to rescue a Klingon ship that's stuck in like the atmosphere of a planet or something, and it's getting crushed. And the scenes on the Klingon ship are great because they're trying to figure out the translation, and there's torpedoes dropping to help with the atmosphere crushing the hull, and the Klingon actor, the woman steals the shuttle and heads back to Enterprise, and they grab her, and then they have a battle with her. There's just so much good stuff going on, and a great, very satisfying ending too when they get the ship out, and then I can't remember if it was Duras or I can't remember who the Klingon was. Is like, okay, we're gonna fight you, and Archer's. Oh, it was Von Armstrong. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And then
best response ever.
And Arthur's just like, I'm gonna put you right back down into the atmosphere of that freaking planet if you do not back off. That was so satisfying. That's a very sneaky good episode. Sleeping Dogs. Okay, 5 words and a hashtag. All right, I'm resonating toward the fact that I think the one negative thing here is the performance from the woman playing the Klingon was not great. She didn't quite get Klingon. So Klingon actor isn't that great. Hashtag. But this episode packs a punch. There we go. Okay. That's why I gotta make it up on the fly. All right, we're gonna edit that to make it sound like I thought of it quickly. Any take on Sleeping Dogs, you guys?
Best part of this episode for me is this is where in season 1 the Hoshi and T'Pol relationship takes a turn. Yep. This is where they stop, they have a moment of connection, they realize that they actually do respect each other, and it's just been a miscommunication, you could call it, but this is where they become good colleagues, and you can see the change every episode after this where they'll ask each other for help or say things, and it starts here. And it's such a beautiful scene where they stop in the mess hall, and I hope somewhere someone writes a fanfic that's all of the meditation lessons that T'Pol then gives to Hoshi when they get back that she promised her, because I would like to read those.
I love it. That's great. It's the production value on this episode is so good too, with the set on the Klingon ship. The visual effects are so good.
Abby, just to piggyback on what you were saying, I think you talk about sneaky good. I think like a sneaky good little character arc within a season is Hoshi's in season 1. I think just kind of charting from Brando and Fight or Flight through Sleeping Dogs and Vox Sola to 2 days and 2 nights when she goes on shore leave and is the only one that has a good time.
Ass.
And like, it's like herself enough and can like calm down and like take it easy and enjoy vacation to the point where it actually does the trick, is telling about her journey and how far she's come over the course of that year. And as a character who kind of maybe falls by the wayside a little bit in the later part of the show, and I don't know if the show always does her justice, like week in, week out. In that first season, though, she is very present and is a big part of why that show is working right out of the gate.
Love it.
Agree. 1,000,000,000%.
Let's see what you can do with the secondary systems.
Okay, let's wrap it up with some quick secondary system. We're going to do a warp speed lightning round. Here we go. We're not doing 5 words and hashtags. So I guess you guys are going to have these ready to go. I'm going to have to think of it on my own. Here we go. Warp speed 1. Episode 66, top 5 T'Pol episodes. Keeping with Enterprise. Bill, what do you got? Twilight. Abby.
Demons and Terra Prime, but I have to do my hashtag because it might be my favorite one I've ever thought of. And it's a capital A and then atypical Vulcan, but you could also read it as a typical Vulcan.
I like it.
Nice.
All done.
Thank
Carl,
you.
what do you got?
I also had Twilight.
Okay, and I'm gonna go with Home as a
Nice.
Yes.
Good one.
Okay, let's do Warp Speed 2. Episode 95. We just talked about it. Top 5 Lower Deck Season 1 moments. What do you got, Bill?
My 5 words was Mariner squares off against yourself from Crisis Point. Hashtag therapy.
That's so good. Hashtag therapy. Abby, Lower Deck.
Hey, I had
season.
Crisis Point too. Crisis Point is my favorite of that season. And I had, you're being a pineapple right now.
Okay.
And my hashtag was Vindicta.
Carl, you got a trifecta on Crisis Point?
Yeah, you're not going to be surprised. This is Crisis Point. My hashtag was I don't want to do a movie.
Yeah,
and I'll say I cheated and had this as my meta trek as well. This is when Mariner calls him kind of a Zon.
Yeah. That's good. Yes, kind of a you're kind of a Zon. All right,
you're kind of a Zon.
I'm gonna break and go with Moist Vessel because that was the episode for me where I went, wow, they've got this. They've nailed it. This is like a Star Trek episode, but it's in this counterintuitive format that we just didn't expect. I love Moist Vessel. I think it's extremely underrated.
I love how consistently you cite that one too. Like
the fact that I like an episode called Moist Vessel, it's just like, what the hell are they doing? But it's a great episode.
And the fact that everyone who's listening to this, about 50% of them just cringe every time you say the word moist. Yeah. And they're just like cringing for the past 90 seconds straight.
Okay, let's go to Warp 3. This is it. This is the end. This has been too much fun. Here we go. Episode 20, top 5 one-off heroes. Oh, this is a tough one. You guys, I gotta think of what you guys are going.
5 words in a hashtag. I gotta do it. Yeah. Died to save the future. Hashtag right outlook, wrong time. And it's Edith Keeler.
Oh, it's too good. Wow. That's too good. That's too
beautiful.
Good. Yeah. Abby, what do you got?
5 words, always layers to the story. Hashtag quote unquote disgraced Vulcan ambassador. And it's Ambassador Valar from Fallen Hero in Enterprise Season 1. And how she was falsely accused there.
That's one of your favorite episodes.
Really the hero.
Yeah, that's one of your favorite episodes. I love it. Okay, what about Carl?
All right, I'm always waving the pennant for this one. 5 words and hashtag a Cardassian in his underwear. Hashtag off the hook after all, and it's Leonalis from the Circle trilogy.
That's a fantastic one-off pick because he was in 3 episodes, but it counts because those episodes are so underrated.
Fabulous 5 words too.
Yes, that's good. All right, I'm gonna go with the first one to pop into my head. She was probably on my list when I did this episode almost 5 years ago. It's Nuria from Who Watches the Watchers, the leader of the Mintakans.
Yeah.
I love her.
Nice.
What a hero. Great leader of her people. Okay, that was way too much fun. I could just keep going.
Jim, if you want, we might have prepped some secondary systems that we wanted to throw out just because we liked them. If you
okay, what do you got?
One that kind of sticks out to me that's kind of maybe commemorating the occasion a little bit is the 116 Minushi, Star Trek Minushi, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm going with ranking. Ranking helps keep everything fresh. Hashtag TrekRanks.
Nice.
I was ready to go on that. And I just feel like this show and just doing what you do and what I do, Jim, especially, there's, depending on how you count them, and there's some disagreement on how you do it, like 870, 880, however many episodes, and things like this really help kind of keep everything straight, and it helps me think about it in new ways and different ways. And I talk about it a lot. Getting to do this kind of stuff is what keeps me coming back and watching it over and over and over again, because I feel like every time I do these kinds of exercises, it forces me to watch through fresh eyes and fresh perspective. And I can't thank you enough for what you do on the show and what you do on Twitter. And
that's awesome.
I appreciate it. And
Trek minutia and ranking. I love that. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that so much.
I realized when I was making this list that I picked the DS9 episode, The Sound of Her Voice, for a stupidly large amount of these. Like, it's my Sheltered in Place pick. It's my Odo pick because it's the time he lets Quark win. It's my scene in a cave when they discover that she's actually been dead for years. It's sneaky good. It's my DS9 underrated. I was like, geez, I always knew I liked this one. I didn't realize how much I liked this one until I sat down and did this homework. So I just wanted to give it a little special shout out.
The beauty of Trek Ranks. We just keep repeating ourselves.
Yeah, true. My second one that I wanted to make sure I highlighted, and especially with Carl on here, is for my Mount Rushmore. My 5 words were soundtrack to my life, and hashtag was Trek music. And it's Jeff Russo, Nami Melamund, Jerry Goldsmith, and Michael Giacchino for most of the modern Trek music that we have now, which is literally the soundtrack to my life.
I love it. That's they deserve it. That would be an amazing amazing way to look at a Trek Mount Rushmore with those 4.
Yeah,
that's
great.
Awesome. Carl?
So some of the 2 of what I was going to mention are of a kind. They're part of the abstract series that you do, because I don't know where you come up with some of these ideas of topics.
They're so fun.
So for abstract H, which again, like, okay, I'm proud of my 5 words because I was channeling my inner Ross Webster with this one, and I'm going to try to say it without stumbling over my words. It's Boimler's Bridge Buddy Beach Buffoonery, hashtag serial sycophants, and it's the Hawaiian shirt and the Hawaii.
I did not know where you were going with that. That
beautiful.
Nobody is actually from Hawaii in this episode, and it's all because Ransom was lying from the beginning, which I just love. And then for why not?
What was it? What's the line? I can't think of it. I can't think of the exact line. It's like, if you were from the islands, you would know how insensitive that is.
Right. Yes.
Anyway,
something like that.
Modesto is not a moon.
If you were from a moon, you'd know how deeply insulting that is.
What? You guys pretended to be from Hawaii. That's like the most culturally insensitive.
No, and for abstract 1, again, I am gonna channel the lower decks here and say it's take me to Starfleet Academy, hashtag manipulative subroutines. It's Agamus of 1 from Where Pleasant Fountains Lie at the end there.
So good.
Hey now, this has all been a huge mistake. Just let me access your computer mainframe and I'll explain everything.
All right, if we're doing abstract picks,
so many
I want to. Yeah,
go ahead.
But if we're going abstract, I would have to say this is where I'm going to totally throw out there that you need to do a hair episode, because my abstract H was hair, because man, Trek hair is a topic that needs a deep dive.
Hair's going to happen at some point. Yeah.
Right.
It is going to happen.
I volunteer for that one.
Right.
I have so many hair picks.
I think we've talked about that before. So, okay, that was so great. I appreciate you guys putting that together. I can't believe you guys did all that homework. That's nuts. All right, let's get into our regeneration cycle. We'll go through some quick stats and recap our picks, because we definitely want to summarize these.
Computer, activate regeneration cycle. Alcoves beta and gamma.
Okay, Bill, hit it. What's your recap? Your 5.
Oh boy. I did sort of. Yeah, my number 5 was First Times, and I went with the First Contact in the movie First Contact. My number 4, I believe, was pop culture references, and I went with Captain Proton and Night. My number 3 was Moments in Song, and I went with Stormy Weather, the Zora Stormy Weather song at the end of that episode. My number 2 was Scenes in Sickbay, and I went with the end of Observer Effect with Archer and the Organians. And my number 5 was Characters That Fooled You, and I went with Ash Tyler in the Wolf Inside.
Fantastic. So you had 2 from Discovery, 1 from Enterprise, Voyager, and TNG. That is an awesome list of topics and picks. Abby, how about you?
Okay, I have to go back. I highlighted them, but I have to remember. All right, so my first one was a scene in a turbo lift, and it was Enterprise Shockwave Part 1, where Archer just can't look back. And then my next one, was Picard, and it was former Borg conversation and from Stardust City Ray. Yeah. And then I had Voyager Underrated, which is Innocence, and that's because I love Tuvok and the kids. Coolest Looking Aliens. Was that my third or my fourth?
Yeah, Coolest Looking Aliens.
Sorry.
Yep. Coolest
Looking Aliens was all right. And then that was the Rangovians from Strange New Worlds, Spock Amok. And my last one was the Most Like TOS episode. And for that, I had TNG Symbiosis.
Fantastic. You had 5 different incarnations: Enterprise, Strange New Worlds, Voyager, Picard, and TNG. These are hard to recap. Carl, go through your 5.
Yeah, they are.
All right. So my number 5 was for Short Trek's moments, and it's when Cadet Sidu goes to engineering and Ask Not. Number 4, Kelvin timeline moments. This is when Kirk met Prime Spock in Star Trek 2009. Sports references, and it's Cisco's baseball in many, many episodes, but I ended up picking Called Arms. Premiere episodes, and went with Broken Bow from Enterprise. And number 1 was holodeck episodes, and I picked Ghost in the Machine from Prodigy.
Fantastic. So you had, it looks like, 5 different incarnations too: Short Treks, Kelvin Timeline, Prodigy, Enterprise, and Deep Space Nine. So that is awesome. And I had, my first one was Top 5 Doppelgangers, Duplicates, and Doubles, episode 21. I chose A Quality of Mercy and 2 Pikes. My round 4 was Uhura episodes, and I chose the Corbomite maneuver when she was at the desk right in the very beginning of Star Trek. My round 3 was Top 5 Courtroom Showdowns, episode 49, the Takalan Ket from Unification 3 with Burnham. Round 2, I had First Contact Moments, episode 90, First Contact from Lower Decks. And my number 1 sneaky good episodes, I had Sleeping Dogs from Enterprise. So I had 5 different incarnations too: Strange New Worlds, TOS, Discovery, Lower Decks, Enterprise. So the only stat we kept, and this is so perfect for episode 150, we hit every single incarnation of Star Trek except for the animated series.
Wow.
We're awesome.
So we had 20 picks and we covered every single one. So there was 1 from the Kelvin timeline, Prodigy, Lower Decks, Short Treks, Picard, TOS, and Deep Space Nine. There was 2 each from TNG and Voyager, 3 from Discovery, and Enterprise led the way with 4. And we had 2 films that were picked. So that's crazy. That is so cool for episode 150 that happened.
I'm so glad. We wanted this to be so good for you, because I, echoing back to what Bill said, Jim, I wouldn't be doing a podcast without you, and Trek Ranks is always a highlight every single time I get to listen to it. So thank you for what you do, and I hope we are back here doing this again in 150 more.
I love it. I appreciate that, you guys. All right, so we are going to initiate a temporal inversion right now, because it's time to hear from you.
Initiate temporal inversion.
Initiating.
And for this week's temporal inversion, we are going back to episode 143 in our top 5 DS9 guilty pleasure episodes. We have another astounding alliterative announcement from the great Rich Masters at Masters Rich on Twitter. Here we go, really quick. Number 5. This is Deep Space Nine guilty pleasure episodes. Tricky Trill tries treasonous transfer. # This worm not for turning. It's invasive procedures. I love that. Number 4. Joyless jaunt jars journalist Jake. # front page news, nor the battle to the strong. That's classic. Number 3 is from a man alone. Clone corpse creates criminal constable. # F2 even.
Wow.
So good.
Wow, jeez.
Number 2 is Fascination, the episode Fascination. 2, ambassadorial anguish actualizes affection accident. And then this hashtag is Ambassadorable Troy. Ambassadorable Troy. That's so good. And then number 1 from Captive Pursuit. Engineer enables extraterrestrial entrapment exit. Hashtag Star-Tossed Brothers. So good. So once again, those
gold
picks,
star.
Yeah, so good. Awesome. So once again, those picks more than enough to clear ourselves from this week's temporal causality loop. So as always, I want to thank everyone again for all your great responses to the TrekRanks podcast. So please keep your list coming to me at TrekRanks on Twitter so we can retweet them. But we also want to hear from you. So put together your own list of TrekRanks Potpourri. You can play along at home or send us a list from any of our past shows and call us at the Tricorder Transmissions at 609-512-5527, or you can just record it, send me a DM. We can link up that way. Hopefully we'll hear from you so you can be featured on the next episode of TrekRanks. And on the next episode of TrekRanks, it's that time again. We are closing out another season of Trek. It's our top 5 Prodigy season 1 moments. That one is going to be so much fun. We talked about it a little bit today here. So Bill, Abby, and Carly, jump into the TrekRanks Matrix quickly and give us one moment from the amazing first season of Prodigy. Bill, what do you got?
This goes back to the first half, right? As well?
Yes, all 20 episodes.
All 20. The very, very, very end of Immortal Star Part 2 was maybe the most satisfying surprise I've had with Star Trek since it's been back on TV.
That's with Janeway showing up and going after Chakotay. I love it. Abby, how about you?
All right, so I have to do this one because I hear it around my house every single day, but Murph's transformation into this incarnation was first called in my house Gingerbread Murph. And then once we realized that Murph now had some massive skills when it came to bad guys, became Ninja Bread Murph. And then my little one sometimes can't say it right, so now it's just Ingebread Murph. So I love the fact that that is omnipresent in my house every single day, and just that's what Murph is called now. It's Ingebread Murph. So
Murph.
Thank you, Prodigy.
Murph looks like a gingerbread. I love it. Carl, how about you?
So to tie this back to our list here, for my Voyager Guilty Pleasure, I had picked Threshold. And of course, it's in the last episode, Mind Walk, when Janeway says something to the effect of, I once turned into a salamander. This can't be that difficult, or something along those lines, which is a reference I never expected to hear, but I was so happy when it happened.
You never thought you'd hear it. It's incredible. All right, looking forward to that one.
Channel closed. Reset. Subspace communication. Scrambler code Riker 1.
Scrambler code Riker 1 acknowledged. Okay, let's close this episode out with a huge thank you to Bill Mann, Abby Sommer, and Carl Wonders. It was great having you guys all on the show. Any final Trek Scrambler codes either one of you want to relay before we depart? Bill, thanks for coming back, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to talk to you, Abby and Carl. Congratulations on 150. Like Abby said, can't wait for the next 150.
Thank you, man. Abby, thanks for coming on. Everybody listen to First Flight Podcast.
Yeah, if you want to hear me ramble more about Enterprise, First Flight Podcast on all the socials. And Jim, this was such an honor to be asked for this one. And again, thank you. And gentlemen, this was so much fun and so many laughs and a great way to spend a couple hours.
Awesome.
So thank you to all of you.
Carl, looking forward to your and John Fuchs's podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. Hopefully we're going to get together pretty soon. And just want to echo what everyone else has already said. You know, Jim, congratulations on 150. I've been here since the beginning when it was episode 0 or NX00, I think you called it. Yeah. And it's always a blast. This is, and I truly mean this, this is my favorite podcast to ever be asked to be on. I just love talking Trek, the way you approach it with the positivity and everything always makes it fun. Abby, it's great to finally get to talk to you for real. And Bill, it's great to be talking to you again.
Absolutely.
Awesome. You guys crushed it. I cannot believe you did all that homework. I am flabbergasted. Okay. Thanks everyone again for engaging with us here on episode 150 of the TrekRanks podcast. As always, I want to close by saying I'm looking forward to standing with you again here in this place where I belong.
After they brought you back from your time in the collective, do you honestly feel that you regained your humanity?
Yes.
All of it?
No. But we're both working on it, aren't we?
Every damn day of my life.
Just want to remind everyone again that the entire TrekRanks catalog is available for you to download and listen to at TrekRanks.com and on your podcast player of choice. Our episodes never get carbon dated, so check out the topics you've missed and maybe just want to listen to again over at TrekRanks.com. And a reminder to check out our friends 5-Year Mission at 5yearmission.net. They're writing a song for every episode of Star Trek, and you won't believe how great their music is. They also have a podcast at the Trek Geeks Network, so seek them out. You won't regret it.
I assume Captain Sisko removed or destroyed everything of value?
Not everything.
What is that?
A message from Sisko.
I don't understand.
He's letting me know he'll be back